The candidates vying for the 13th congressional seat all meet on one stage this past week in a one-hour special debate here on 21 WFMJ. Valley incumbent Democrat Tim Ryan and Republican challenger Christina Hagan took jabs at one another throughout the night, most notably sparring over jobs, the loss of GM Lordstown and the Valley's economy, also where they reside. So joining us this morning to weigh in on the debate and much more, former Ohio Senator Fricke. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thanks so much, Lindsay. Good morning.
Good morning. So when you watched the debate this past week between incumbent Tim Ryan and Republican challenger Christina Hagan, and then the third candidate, Libertarian Michael Fricke, did you see a clear winner in this debate in terms of providing a clear understanding of where they stand on the issues?
Well, first, let me just say that I recognize going into this conversation that I may be inherently partially biased as someone who has known Congressman Ryan for 20 years and has his sign in my yard. So I want to be full disclosure on that. Yeah. But I will say this. I mean, I watched the debate on WFMJ while making soup, whatever evening that was. And what really surprised me, frankly, was seeing the fact that Christina Hagan had spent 8 years in the Ohio General Assembly. She didn't actually spend any time talking about any sort of accomplishments or notable legislative victories that she had in those 8 years. And that really surprised me. As someone who spent a decade in the legislature myself, if I were standing on that stage, I would have spent a lot of time talking about the things that I actually had an opportunity to accomplish. We didn't hear that from Christina Hagan. We heard more platitudes, and really Republican talking points. She presented herself well. I give her credit for that. It takes a lot of guts. I know that. I've been in her shoes, 16 years ago, 14 years ago. So I understand where she's coming from. But I do think that Congressman Ryan provided a very explicit and clear roadmap of what he has done and what he will do for the Valley. And so to me, it seemed very clear that, Congressman Ryan's experience, while Christina Hagan, Representative Hagan, tried to use his tenure, 17 years in Congress, basically as it's time to go and try something new. Again, an argument that I respect and have used in my, in my own personal life, my own personal political career 16 years ago. I think that Congressman Ryan made a compelling argument of why he needs to stay, because he has shown a track record of getting money into this district, working across party lines, and working to get new jobs into the places that have unfortunately lost those jobs, including the former General Motors facility.
Yeah, and I understand your point. She did not mention the heartbeat bill, something that she sponsored. I wondered if that was on purpose. And she did talk a little bit about the economy in my interview with her. She also was endorsed by President Trump, and she makes it known that she does support him. She doesn't hide that. And I asked her, if she was hoping to ride the Trump wave if he wins in Ohio, and she's going to answer that in her own words in my upcoming piece. But I wanted to ask you, do you think that she could win? Does his support simply trickle down ticket to a race like the 13th congressional district here in Ohio?
Well, I do think that President Trump's coattails, like any presidential ticket, makes a difference in down ballot races, particularly at the federal level. So, I think that from what I've seen just, around the Valley, for example, where you see Trump signs in yards, you often see Hagan signs in yards. And so I think this is going to be one of the closer races for Congressman Ryan in his, tenure since 2002, when he first ran for Congress in that, very unique three-way race that he had when he won this seat back when it was the 17th congressional district. But I also think that President Trump, while I still frankly think that it is more likely than not he will win Ohio by a more narrow margin than the 8 percentage points that he did in 2016, he's not going to have the same coattails that he did 4 years ago. And so to that end, I think that, it's still going to be somewhat of an uphill battle for Christina Hagan. And we also have to recognize the large swath of this district. It's not just Mahoning and Trumbull County. Right. It is places like Kent, which are more historically progressive, in places like Summit County as well.
Oh, yeah. The outskirts of Akron, Ravenna, Brady Lake, Kent.
Exactly. Very different kind of political demographic.
Absolutely. What is the biggest issue you think will be the deciding factor in this race? Will it be the economy? Because we are now starting to see a new life in Lordstown, and no matter what the, accomplishments that he can tout in that specific project in that area, do you think that that's enough for people to feel confident that this area is going to turn around?
I think that with any more localized race, and while this is federal, this is still, more of a local race than, a presidential or even a United States Senate race. Because Congressman Ryan has been in office for so long, people have their own, perceived notions of him. They kind of know where they stand. They know what his personality is. They know how he interacts with constituents, how responsive his office is, and things of that nature. And I think that, really what he needed to do was show that after he ran for president, that he was still committed to this valley and to the 13th congressional district writ large. I think he has proven that. And I think if people feel that Congressman Ryan that they're comfortable in his commitment to this area and a continued advocacy in Washington, that they're more likely than not to vote for him and not change in midstream. We do have a Democratic majority in Congress, in the House. That is something that is likely to continue, and something that sometimes contributes to how people choose their congressional representatives, saying, well, a person in the majority can get more done. Christina Hagan, Representative Hagan, would be in the minority conceptually if things stayed the same, which means that, if you apply conventional wisdom, she would not necessarily have the same kind of, chops as Congressman Ryan does, because he has seniority and he's in the majority. And I think that those things are aspects that people take into consideration as well.
Well, she's claiming that the GOP in Ohio and nationally, they think that this is going to be a surprise ticket for them, a surprise pickup. So we'll have to see. Let's move on, though, real quick before you go. The president and Democratic candidate Joe Biden hosting dual town halls this past week. I'd like to know, were those effective? Do you think maybe more than the debate? Do you think that it helped undecided voters at all? What kind of impact did those make, if any?
I don't think that they made a huge impact. The one thing that was my takeaway is the fact that Joe Biden's ratings were higher than President Trump's. Joe Biden had over 14 million viewers on ABC, one single network, whereas Donald Trump had about 13 some million viewers across three platforms: MSNBC, CNBC, and NBC broadcast. And I think that says something about where the American electorate's head is at, because I personally thought that Trump would win in the quote unquote ratings, because people at least want to see what he has to say. What this signals to me is that the American public has a bit of fatigue with Donald Trump, that they are, kind of sick of the circus, the uncertainty, the bombast that's coming from the president. And so, they have such fatigue, they're not even willing to turn in for an hour while he engages with, undecided voters and Savannah Guthrie on NBC. So I think that in that sense, it is somewhat telling of where the American people may be at as far as a desire to maybe return to more normalcy, more stability when it comes to presidential politics. I don't necessarily think it made up anybody's minds. I personally think that the Commission on Presidential Debates should have reconvened and held the debate, that town hall, as scheduled in Miami. That's where President Trump was. It was clear that both of them were negative for COVID. They would have been able to do it. I think that it was a disservice to the American public, because both of those men on stage interacting with American voters at the same time, I think would have been very telling and helping to the American voters for whomever may be left as an undecided or persuadable. But, we still have one more debate to go next Thursday, which will be on NBC.
Yeah.
And I think that will be, if there's any more undecided people left, that's where they're going to make their decisions.
All right, we're 2 weeks out, so I can't wait to talk to you about all of it very soon. Fricke, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right.